big commitment for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Top 30 recruit in the 2022 class, receiver CJ Williams from Mater Dei in Southern California has announced his pledge to the Fighting Irish, and he was kind enough to join us to discuss his pledge. So, CJ, first of all, congrats on picking Notre Dame. The first question is an obvious one. Why did you pick the Fighting Irish?
Oh, to start off, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for the welcoming and for just having me on the show. It's really a pleasure and honor to be here. For me and my recruitment, it came down to Notre Dame, and really Notre Dame was the clear view choice for me at the end of the day. I think it really brought to me this idea of where I belonged and somewhere where I felt comfortable when I visited, and just being on the phone with the coaches and building that relationship. Because I was one of those guys, I didn't commit when I was on my official visit, and I thought that was very important to me. I wanted to go home and reevaluate all the places I had been, and I really got the opportunity to kind of look back and just when I came home and reflected with my parents, I was just like, yeah, Notre Dame seems like the spot for me. And so there was kind of three different factors that fell into my recruiting, what were all important to me. Obviously, football. I'm a big football guy. It's what I do. It's a lot of what I spend my time doing. Second to me is education, right? I spend a lot of my time in school also, and learning different things, and just being a student of the product and everything I am as far as in the classroom. So that was really important to me. And then the third thing was the culture. I thought who I was surrounded by and kind of who they were as people was really important to me. Just kind of having people that were like-minded and people that really held high standards to who they were. So
Good stuff, CJ. So, the moment you pick Notre Dame, do you remember? Do you know a day? What the reaction was to the coaches? Which guys you called?
the day I committed was, I want to say a week after my official,
Okay.
yeah, give or so. So a week after my official, give or so. And I called the first person I called was Coach Reese. He was one of the guys that picked up my recruiting really really heavy as time went on. Like me and Coach Reese's relationship was really really interesting because, like you said, Notre Dame wasn't one of those schools that I was really high on, and so they were still contacting me, and we would still keep communication. And Coach Reese would text me, and I would be one of those kind of recruits. Like I would text him back so often, but like I wasn't really. I was focused. I was in season, so I had a spring season, so I wasn't responding to his every text. But like I met him face to face, and I was like, this is a guy that I want to be around, and this is a guy that I think deserves the time and all the effort that he puts into me, and to get it right back. So Coach Reese was the very first guy or first coach I called. Then I called Coach Alexander, and I think I called him on Saturday. So it was a Saturday in which I called Coach Alexander and Coach Reese, and then actually Coach Kelly was busy with some family stuff that Saturday, so I ended up calling him early Sunday morning prior to me going on to a workout like 6 in the morning Pacific time. So it was at 9 o'clock out there. So
And what was their reaction? What do you remember about those conversations?
yeah, Coach Reese was very very happy. He was actually on a trip, so this was during a time period where they didn't have a whole lot to do at home, so they're just, vacationing. I called him. I interrupted his trip, but I'm pretty sure he was happy that he got the good news there and then. So he was on a trip with a couple of his friends, and he was very, very happy. And he was like, "Oh, when can we get Coach Kelly on the phone? When can we get Coach Kelly on the phone?" Coach Alexander was actually driving, and he had to pull over the car, and he's like, "Oh, don't do it to me! Don't do it to me!" And then, I moved right there to him. And then Coach Kelly was just as happy, and they're probably more level-headed. He gets the guys all the time. He gets that call all the time, but he showed me just as much excitement as the other two, and made it feel like very welcoming, as if like I was now part of his family. Not like that I wasn't before, because he made it very apparent that he wanted me and stuff like that. But like just after I said the words, I'm committed to be part of your family, part of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. He just really welcomed me. So
And how excited are you right now, man? I mean, my favorite thing about CJ Williams is he's always got a smile on his face. I don't think I've ever seen you frown. So just how pumped up are you right now, man?
no, I am very, very, very happy. I think just to be able to say, hey, I'm going to play football, and I played after I'm done playing football. I played football at the University of Notre Dame. I think that's crazy. That's really something that leaves me starstruck every time I think about it, and just the opportunity that's presented ahead of me, I think is remarkable, and I see nothing but good things in my future. Hopefully, I pray for that, and I'm ready for to play some in the blue and gold. So.
Now you talked about those kind of top three factors in you making that decision to pick a Notre Dame. Let's dive deeper into those a little bit. Like biggest factors of picking Notre Dame. Like what do you love most about that university, the campus, the Fighting Irish football program in general?
Yeah, I think the one factor that I talked about, and we can go a lot deeper on it. There's so many levels to it. Was that culture aspect? Like every school that I was looking at in my top five was a very high academic school. You got Texas, who has the number one or top 10 business school in the nation, in McCombs. You have Stanford, which speaks for itself. University of Southern California, which is one of the best private institutions in the nation. So out of those just three right there alone, education is something that, all the schools I was looking at was very, very good. All the schools I was looking at also were very, very good football programs, in my opinion, and had very, very good staffs. But the culture at Notre Dame, that's something that was very different, I feel like, than some of the other schools. I think that's what really stood out to me and was really something that made Notre Dame, right? You have great people that are all there to do a similar thing. At the end of the day, we're trying to win a national championship, but to the coaches, it's not just about winning that national championship. It's about developing these young men and developing the young men and getting them, through college, making it, difficult for them, but also easy for them, right? Preparing them for life, not only as a student, but as a young man. And if they have the opportunity to go play football at the next level, they're going to be ready for that also. So.
So you touched on this earlier, because before we were talking before we started recording, and I've said this in so many YouTube videos and podcasts and articles that Notre Dame offered you early in 2020. You were going to visit there April 2020. You were going to visit a bunch of schools. Of course, COVID canceled that, and then I
Mhm.
kind of felt like Notre Dame was always kind of running fourth or fifth, like a school you were considering, but never one of like I could have never imagined at those points like that you were going to end up at Notre Dame. What was maybe the shift? Was there a moment, a call, or was it kind of just a gradual thing? Or correct me if I'm wrong. If Notre Dame wasn't running fourth or fifth, and maybe they were always a tough spot. Like, kind of break that down for me. Am I wrong here, or was Notre Dame gradually, improve their standing in your recruitment?
Yeah, I think you hit it right there on the spot. It's something actually me and my dad talked about the other day. Like, who would ever imagine I was going to Notre Dame? Like, right when I was going through the initial part of the recruiting process, I was real big on schools like USC. Stanford was a school that I really wanted to offer from. They offered me later in the process based on how they do it. So, like Notre Dame, when they offered me, I was like, "Oh, it's awesome! This is a Notre Dame offer." I remember the day Coach Alexander and me got on the phone. I was a sophomore, I want to say. I was a sophomore, and he offered me. It was like one of my first 6 or 7 offers, and it was just because throughout my process, I got a bunch of different offers. I got on the phone with a bunch of different coaches, and I wouldn't say like Notre Dame was one of those schools I was like wowed by. But now, that's changed so much as my recruiting has gone on. Like gradually, I feel like they've really picked up with myself and also my family, like where they stand in my mind. Obviously, Notre Dame's a very, very high academic school, and that's what's important to me. And it was something like, even remember how you came to the rivals camp, and then we met in that first time, and we really didn't talk a whole lot about Notre Dame. I feel like you got some shots and some stuff like that, but like Notre Dame wasn't really, really high at the time. It was one of those top, 10 schools I was looking at, but it wasn't, that top five like you're talking about. So I would say pretty recently, as going through COVID and stuff like that, and realizing how much like the concept of culture, the concept of good people and stuff like that means to me, and the concept of becoming a complete young man and being around complete young men as well, and just kind of experiencing maybe something different would really benefit me. I feel like that was kind of what picked up Notre Dame in my recruit and made them that top school, and really made it the school that I inevitably wanted to go to. So.
I remember getting a text from a source in about March or April. Of course, I'm not going to say who it was, but the person was like, "Man, I think CJ Williams is going to Notre Dame," and I was like, "Yeah, right. Here we are." Uh, Now, a relationship that I've reported on that I feel like a lot of people may not know about is you and Tobias Merriweather, who, of course, committed to Notre Dame just a few days ago. He is from the Pacific Northwest. You guys played together, I want to say, at least once, maybe twice for FSP, 7-on-7 program up in the Pacific Northwest. I believe you guys played in Arizona. Tell me about that relationship. Did you guys ever talk about teaming up at Notre Dame or potentially being a package deal?
No, never before did we ever really talk about teaming up at Notre Dame. But yeah, just to start off, love Tobias. That's my guy. A great dude. Yes, I played with him at FSP up there in Washington, which is his home state. I went up there. I joined Tracy and his crew, and I played a little bit of football with them. And I got to see some real true competition. I thought that was cool. Just playing with Tobias, I think I played with him twice, like you said. playing with him, I got to see a lot of his game and how we kind of differentiate, and then how we're similar, right? We both have that. I would say that our one biggest similarity is we both have that dog mentality, right? If we like, we both. So he played left outside when we played together. I played right outside, and Tobias would catch a touchdown. I would look over there. I'd be like, okay, now I need to catch a touchdown. And so I kind of made us better. I feel like that competitive nature that we both carried kind of made us better. And I looked at Tobias. I was like, oh well, he's running this route because we weren't just playing. We were also training as well. So we do different things. I was like, oh, he ran this route like this. I like that. Maybe I'll take that back with me to California. So just being around Tobias, I felt like made me a better football player overall. And not to mention, he's a great guy. His father is a very, very good guy. Him and my dad still text back and forth. They text back and forth a lot more now, being that we're both committed. But talking about Notre Dame wasn't something that we really did when I was up there. I don't think we talked about Notre Dame at all. We talked about, where are we going? And at that time, I was like, I'm thinking USC. I'm thinking Bama. Georgia was in the mix for me at that time. So he was big on what schools? He was big on Notre Dame at the time. He was
Yep.
big on Washington being his home school, and he had a lot of the Pac-12. A funny thing about Tobias is that the one school we discussed talking about was Stanford. And that was a school that he had not received an offer from yet. But I introduced him to the wide receiver coach. I was like, hey, I love Stanford, everything they're about, and the wide receiver coach is awesome. But so that was kind of relationship kind of built there. I was like, maybe it could be Stanford that we team up at, and it just so happened to be Notre Dame, which is a very, very high level school as well. And I'm not complaining about either of them. So
Yeah, I want to say that 7-on-7 tournament you guys are talking about was what, January, February, is much earlier in the year, which just goes again to speak to how much things have progressed. All right, CJ, we're gonna pop on your junior film, shortened season. I believe you only played in a few games. I want to talk about Steve Angeli, Notre Dame's quarterback, commit with you. I'm sure you've watched his tape. I'm sure you've talked to him many, many times. What are kind of your impressions of Notre Dame's quarterback commit in your class?
great guy. I like Steve. And I'm not gonna lie, he's one of the pushiest recruiters I've met out there. He was
Pushiest.
consistent. Yeah, he's very, very consistent in text me. Even times when during season, like Coach Reese, I wouldn't respond. He would double text me. I'm like, dang, this guy is he's going, and it ended up working out in our favor, and now I get to play with him at the next level. I've watched this film. My dad's watched this film because we do that a lot. We like to watch other guys in the 2022 class film and what we think, especially quarterbacks. And from him, I could just see a guy that just has elite arm talent. I think that's something that is very, very important to me. A guy that can get you the ball at the end of the day is what you want. I would not doubt that he is one of the smartest out there. I know Coach Reese loves his smart football players. That's why he's recruiting me, and that's why he holds me so high in sports. So, I bet you me and him could sit in the room for 5 minutes and just talk football, and I can just tell that he knows the game, and he knows the ins and outs of it, and he thinks similar to me. Because I think it's very, very important to have a football mind, and I think Steve will be much like that. From a person standpoint, great guy, very, very good guy. He invited me to come out and play with him with Boom and stuff like that, out there in the Midwest and stuff like that. But it wasn't able to happen. I think I had a 7-on-7 tournament for Modern Day at the time, but that would have been awesome to go out there and do that. But just cool, very, very cool guy, I would say. I'm looking forward to playing with him at the next level.
Let's talk about your fit in the Notre Dame offense as we see you here playing a good bit of slot receiver.
Yes, sir.
And I know when I talked to you after your Notre Dame visit, that's something that you said that you and Coach Reese had talked about. Keenan Allen type fit. I remember you telling me. Just break down your fit in that Notre Dame offense.
Yeah, and that's exactly kind of where we talked about when we were there. Is that slot receiver being very, very valuable to them and something they want to emphasize more. Not only just playing the slot, obviously, I'd be able to play the outside, left, right, anywhere, single receiver side, 3 to the trips. Anything that they want me to do, I'd be willing to do, whether it's, special teams or something like that also. But that slot receiver, I feel like it's very, very different in a way from the outside. And when used right in the offense, you can really value it. And I think he sees me as being a volume catch guy, a guy that can go move the sticks for them. And, if I need to hit someone with a double move or anything like that to make a play and change the momentum of the game, that's something I can do. So, Notre Dame has a very, very known identity as a run football team, and a team that has great running backs. So that's something that's going to only benefit me, right? I get a lot of one-on-one coverage, and that's what I love at the end of the day. So.
Just last thing for you, CJ. What are Notre Dame fans getting in CJ Williams? Like, you as a young man, as a student, just a person in that community?
Yeah. From a person standpoint, they're going to get a guy that does the right thing. That's one of the things I hold myself high on at the end of the day is doing the right thing. It's like the Spike Lee movie, "Do the Right Thing," and that's one of my favorite phrases that I've heard. Another quote that I like to use and kind of remind myself is, how you do anything is how you do everything. At the end of the day, I'm going to do everything how I do play football. I'm going to go to the classroom and strive for greatness in the classroom, just as I do as a person, just as I do as a football player. So that's basically me in an overview, I would say. So.
That's CJ Williams talking about his Notre Dame commitment. One of my favorite recruits of all
Thank
time.
you.
I mean, you guys just heard him 16-minute interview. He is just a fantastic young man. I don't know, better young man, better football player. I don't know. He's
That's not a bad competition to have at the end of the day. I think my parents would be pretty happy if one overweighed the other one. So
well, definitely. We'll congratulations to you, CJ, and appreciate you coming on, man.
no problem. Thank you, Mr. Singh, for having me.